John had never expected life to change so suddenly. One ordinary morning, as sunlight poured through the small kitchen window, he sat at the table, sipping his coffee, reading a letter that had arrived the day before. It was from a law office, the kind that usually brought news no one ever wanted. The letter stated that he had inherited a property from a distant relative he had never met. Not just any property, an entire lake with surrounding land, somewhere far from the city he had called home for most of his life. John had been a soldier once. He had served his country and returned home with memories that sometimes weighed him down. Life had been a constant balancing act, raising his young daughter Mia while working long hours at a small repair shop. He had never expected to suddenly own a lake, a place that seemed more like a dream than reality. Yet the papers were real, signed and sealed. Lake Greenwood, as it was called, was his now. He remembered the stories his father had once told him long ago. Tales of quiet water, of forests so deep that the sun barely touched the ground, and of animals that seemed to live without fear. He had laughed at the time, thinking they were just stories to entertain a boy. Now, with the papers in his hand, he wondered if there was truth in them. The next day, John packed a small bag, loaded Mia into their old SUV, and set out for Lake Greenwood. The city receded behind them, replaced by winding roads, thick forests, and the fresh scent of pine that filled the air with each turn. Mia sat quietly, peering out the window, her eyes wide with curiosity. She was only 8, but she had grown used to the unexpected in their lives. Moving was nothing new to them, though neither had imagined a lake as their new home. When they finally arrived, the sight took John's breath away. The lake lay still, its surface smooth like glass, reflecting the morning sky. Mist rose gently from the water, curling around the trees that surrounded it like silent guardians. A small cabin stood near the shore, weathered but sturdy. It had been abandoned for years, yet it seemed welcoming in a quiet, patient way. John parked the car and stepped out. The air was cool and clean, a sharp contrast to the smog and noise of the city. Mia ran ahead, her laughter echoing across the water as she explored the wooden dock. John followed slowly, letting the calmness sink in. The lake seemed to breathe, almost as if it were alive. He shook his head at the thought, but a small smile played at the corners of his lips. Maybe it was exactly what they needed. Over the next few days, John and Mia settled into the cabin. The place was small, with a single bedroom, a kitchen that looked as if it had not been used in decades, and a living area with large windows overlooking the lake. Repairs were simple but necessary. John fixed broken shelves, cleaned the dust from corners, and even patched up the small porch that overlooked the water. Mia helped where she could, mostly by running small errands for him and keeping the place cheerful with her constant chatter. It was during one of these quiet mornings that John first noticed something unusual. He had walked to the edge of the lake, collecting water to fill their kettle, when he cut his hand on a sharp stone. Normally, even the smallest cut would sting and throb, but when he dipped it into the lake, the pain seemed to fade immediately. The cut stopped bleeding, and within moments it felt almost as if it had never happened. He stared at the water, bewildered, then at Mia, who had been watching him curiously. "Did it hurt?" she asked. "A little," John replied, flexing his fingers. "But it's okay now." He looked at the water again. Something about it seemed different, almost alive. He had heard of natural springs and mineral waters, but nothing like this. Could it be just coincidence? He shook his head. He would test it again later. That afternoon, John went for a walk around the lake. He discovered a small stream that fed into the larger water, surrounded by wildflowers and mossy stones. Birds sang from the trees above, and occasionally he spotted deer or rabbits moving quietly through the underbrush. The peace was unlike anything he had known. For a moment, he allowed himself to forget the worries of the world beyond the lake. Mia, meanwhile, had found a favorite spot near a large oak tree, where she spent hours sketching and collecting small treasures. She had already begun calling the lake their secret place, a name that made John smile. It was a special kind of happiness, one that had been rare in their lives. Here there was no rush, no noise, only the steady rhythm of nature. One evening, after a long day of exploring, John sat by the shore, skipping stones across the calm water. The sun was low, casting golden streaks across the lake, making it shine as if it were made of liquid gold. He thought of the letter again, and of the fact that owning a lake would surely bring attention. Land was valuable, and a hidden place like this could not stay secret for long. He wondered who might come seeking it and whether the lake could stay safe. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that wrapped around you like a soft blanket. John and Mia sat by the fire in the cabin, roasting marshmallows and listening to the soft sounds of the lake. For the first time in years, John felt a sense of hope. This place was more than just inherited property. It felt like a new beginning, a chance to heal. The next morning, John decided to test the water more carefully. He filled a small jar and took it back to the cabin. Using a cut on his arm and a minor bruise from bumping into a branch, he discovered that the water seemed to speed healing in a way he could not explain. He did not understand why or how, but he knew that this lake was special. It was almost as if it had been waiting for someone to care for it, to notice it. Days passed in a routine of discovery and repair. John fixed the cabin, Mia explored, and the lake revealed more of its calm, healing nature. John often found himself sitting by the water, dipping his fingers in, feeling its energy. The more time he spent there, the more he felt a lightness in his chest, a relief from years of stress and exhaustion. Even Mia seemed more vibrant, her laughter brighter, her curiosity endless. One afternoon, as John was inspecting the small dock, he noticed footprints leading along the shore. They were fresh and seemed human. A moment of worry crossed his mind. Could someone have found the lake already? He followed the prints cautiously, but they disappeared near a cluster of trees. No one was there. He let out a slow breath and shook his head. Maybe it was just an animal. Still, the thought of outsiders made him uneasy. He realized that this lake, though beautiful and peaceful, might soon need protecting. As the sun set, casting pink and orange hues across the water, John and Mia sat together on the porch. She leaned against his shoulder, her small hand in his, and he felt a surge of determination. This lake was theirs now, a gift that came with responsibility. He would do whatever it took to keep it safe and to uncover its secrets. The quiet water held mysteries, and he was ready to discover them. For the first time in a long while, John allowed himself to hope. Life had given him a second chance, a place where he and Mia could heal together. He looked at the shimmering surface of Lake Greenwood and whispered quietly to himself, "We're home." And in that moment, the lake seemed to answer, as if acknowledging their presence. The water glimmered, catching the last light of the day, and the wind carried the soft rustle of leaves. Somewhere deep within, John felt that this lake held more than calmness. It held the promise of something extraordinary, a power that had waited for the right people to come along. John did not know what the future held. But one thing was certain: Lake Greenwood was not just inherited land. It was a new life, a hidden treasure, and perhaps a source of hope that would change everything for them. The morning sun rose over Lake Greenwood, painting the water in soft shades of gold and pink. John woke early, as he had every day since arriving. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Mia was already awake, peering out the window with wide eyes. "Look, Dad," she said, pointing. "The water looks like it's sparkling." John smiled, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "It always looks like that in the morning," he said. "But you're right. Today it seems brighter than usual." After breakfast, John decided to explore the far side of the lake. He had only seen a portion of the property so far, and curiosity pulled him onward. He packed a small bag with water, snacks, and a first aid kit. Mia wanted to join, but John gently told her to stay near the cabin for now. She protested briefly but understood. The path around the lake was narrow and overgrown in some places. Birds called from the trees and squirrels darted through the underbrush. John felt a peacefulness here that he had not known in years. The sounds of the city were far behind him, replaced by nature's quiet rhythm. As he walked, he noticed small changes in the land that he had not seen before. Flowers with bright petals grew along the path, and moss covered the rocks in thick, soft layers. The farther he went, the stronger the sense grew that this lake was alive in ways he could not fully understand. He stopped near a small waterfall feeding into the lake. The water fell in a clear, steady stream, and when he reached to touch it, a strange sensation ran through his fingers. It was not cold or warm, just energizing. He bent down and scooped some water into his hands. It sparkled as he lifted it to the sunlight. Without thinking, he splashed a small amount onto a scratch on his arm. The cut had been there since the previous day, but within moments the redness faded, and the skin looked as if it had never been broken. John stared, astonished. This water was extraordinary. He remembered the stories his father had told him long ago about hidden springs and magical lakes. He had laughed at the time, thinking they were just tales for children. Now he realized that some of those stories might have been true. Over the next few days, John experimented cautiously. Small cuts, bruises, and even scratches that Mia had accidentally gotten healed much faster when touched by the lake water. He began to keep a small jar of it in the cabin. Each time he or Mia needed it, the water seemed to work almost like a gentle magic, easing pain and swelling. Mia became fascinated by the lake. She spent hours collecting pebbles, watching insects and observing birds. John sometimes watched her, feeling a deep happiness that he had not felt in a long time. The lake was not just healing their bodies, it seemed to heal their hearts as well. One afternoon, John decided to explore the forest behind the lake. The trees were tall and thick, forming a green roof that let only dappled sunlight touch the ground. The air smelled of moss and earth, and each step felt like a journey into another world. As he walked, he noticed a small clearing. In the center was a pool of water, smaller than the lake but even more clear. Curious, John knelt by the pool and touched the water. Immediately, he felt a warmth spread through his body. It was stronger than anything he had felt before. His muscles, tired from the long walk, relaxed, and a wave of energy and calmness washed over him. He realized then that the lake and its streams were connected in ways he did not fully understand. There was a power here, a hidden energy that could heal and refresh, but it was also delicate. The forest around it felt protective, as if it wanted to keep the secret safe. When he returned to the cabin, John began making notes about the lake, its streams, and the strange effects he observed. He drew maps of the land and labeled areas where the water was strongest. Mia watched him curiously, fascinated by the idea that their lake was special. Days turned into a routine of discovery and careful observation. John repaired the cabin, maintained the dock, and explored the surrounding woods. He kept a journal, recording each small miracle he witnessed. The healing power of the water amazed him. Even small animals seemed healthier near the lake. Birds sang more clearly, and the deer that occasionally appeared looked stronger and more vibrant. One morning, John noticed something unusual. Tracks had appeared near the edge of the property. They were not his or Mia's, and they were too large to belong to any small animal. He knelt to examine them. The ground was soft from recent rain, making the prints clear. Human footprints. A chill ran down his spine. Someone had been near the lake. He remembered his earlier thoughts about outsiders, people who might want to exploit the lake's beauty or its power. John felt a surge of determination. He would not let anyone take this place away from them. That evening, he discussed it with Mia. "We need to be careful," he said gently. "Some people might try to take the lake for themselves, but we will protect it." Mia nodded seriously. "I want to help," she said. "We can watch the lake together." John smiled, feeling a mix of pride and relief. They were a team, and together they could face whatever challenges came. The lake had given them hope, and now it was time to guard it carefully. Over the next week, John explored further and discovered more about the lake's water. Certain areas seemed more powerful than others. The water from the small waterfall and the hidden pool in the forest had stronger effects than the lake's main surface. He realized that the water's energy depended on its source and perhaps even the surrounding land. One day, while walking near the hidden pool, John found something extraordinary. Tiny glowing fish swam near the surface. Their scales shimmered with colors he had never seen before. They seemed to be drawn to the pool's energy, moving gracefully in the gentle current. John watched quietly, afraid to disturb them. The lake was alive in ways he could not have imagined. He returned to the cabin and shared his observations with Mia. "The lake is special," he said. "It can heal us, but it also holds life in ways we don't fully understand." Mia's eyes sparkled. "Do you think it's magic?" she asked. John chuckled. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just nature showing us how amazing the world can be when we care for it." That night, John sat by the porch with Mia, listening to the sounds of the forest. The wind rustled through the trees, the water lapped gently against the shore, and somewhere in the distance an owl hooted. He felt a sense of peace he had not known in years. But the tracks he had found earlier remained in his mind. He knew the lake's secret could not stay hidden forever. People might come seeking it, drawn by rumors or curiosity. John resolved to learn more about the lake, its waters, and its energy before anyone else could interfere. The days continued in quiet wonder. John and Mia explored, repaired, and learned. Each discovery made them more connected to the lake. more protective of its secrets. And the lake, in return, seemed to welcome them, offering its healing waters, its calm, and its mysterious beauty. As the sun set over Greenwood, painting the lake with shades of gold and purple, John looked at Mia and smiled. "We are lucky," he said softly. "This place chose us." Mia nodded, hugging him tightly. "And we'll take care of it," she promised. John felt a deep sense of determination. The lake was their home, their secret, and their responsibility. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somewhere beneath the calm surface, the waters of Lake Greenwood pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their promise. It was a quiet power, waiting to reveal more of its secrets in time. It had been nearly 2 weeks since John and Mia had arrived at Lake Greenwood. The mornings were calm and golden, and the evenings brought a quiet peace that filled the cabin. But one morning, the sense of calm was interrupted. John noticed a small boat approaching the lake from the far side. It was unusual. He had not seen anyone else around the property, and there were no signs of neighbors nearby. He squinted, trying to make out the figure in the boat. A man dressed neatly was rowing toward the shore with a purposeful motion. Mia ran to the window, her eyes wide. "Dad, who is that?" she whispered. John shook his head. "I don't know," he said, his voice low. "Let's wait and see." By the time the boat reached the dock, John had gathered his courage. He stepped outside and called politely, "Hello? Can I help you?" The man stepped onto the wooden dock with a polite smile. "Good morning," he said. "My name is Paul. I'm from a company that manages lakes and resorts. I heard this property was for sale and I thought I would come see it. I hope I'm not disturbing you." John's heart sank slightly. He had feared outsiders might come, drawn by the beauty of the lake. "Actually," John said firmly, "this lake is not for sale." Paul's smile did not fade, but there was a small flash of surprise in his eyes. "Oh, I see. I only heard a rumor. I apologize for the intrusion. It's just such a beautiful place. I wanted to learn more about it." John studied him carefully. There was something polished about Paul, a calm way of speaking, but John sensed that he was not just curious. "It's very private here," John said. "We prefer to keep it that way." Paul nodded. "Of course. I understand. I just hope you enjoy the lake. It is rare to find such beauty." After Paul left, John felt uneasy. He knew that people who wanted land for business rarely took rejection gracefully. He turned to Mia. "We need to be careful," he said. "Some people might come back. We have to protect this place." Mia nodded. "We can watch the lake together," she said firmly, as if ready to help in any way. The next day, John explored the lake's far shore to check for any signs that someone had been there. He discovered footprints leading to the cabin and then returning to the forest. They were fresh. Someone had indeed walked along the lake, studying it quietly. John realized it was time to be more vigilant. He began making small improvements to the cabin and dock, ensuring that they could quickly notice any intruders. He even built a small tree platform in a tall pine near the cabin to observe the lake from above. Despite the potential danger, the lake's waters continued to surprise him. That afternoon, John brought Mia to the hidden pool in the forest. They had discovered it a few days ago, and it had become their secret retreat. Mia dipped her hand into the water and gasped as it shimmered in the sunlight. "It feels warm, Dad," she said. "It's like it's alive." John nodded, smiling. "It's special. We have to take care of it." While they rested by the pool, John thought about Paul and the possibility that more people might come. He knew that some might not care about the lake's magic or its beauty. They might see only its value and try to take it. That thought strengthened his resolve. That evening, as the sun set over the lake, John noticed movement in the forest on the far side. He strained his eyes, but it was difficult to see clearly in the fading light. Then a voice called from the edge of the trees. "Hello? Anyone there?" John's heart raced. He called back, "Who is it?" A woman stepped from the shadows. She was tall and dressed in hiking clothes, carrying a notebook and a small camera. "I'm Anna," she said politely. "I'm a researcher studying lakes and their ecosystems. I heard about Lake Greenwood and wanted to see it for myself. I mean no harm." John frowned, cautious. "This is private property," he said. "You cannot just enter." Anna smiled gently. "I understand. I just wanted to observe nature. I promise to leave immediately if you want me to." John studied her, sensing no immediate threat. He could see her admiration for the lake in her eyes, the way she moved slowly, careful not to disturb anything. "All right," he said finally. "You can stay for a short while. But please respect the place. This lake is special." Anna nodded. "Thank you. I won't cause any trouble." Over the next few days, Anna visited the lake occasionally. She kept her distance, observing quietly and taking notes. John watched her carefully. She seemed genuinely interested in the life of the lake rather than its value as land. He found himself feeling a little more comfortable with her presence. But the encounter with Paul remained on his mind. People like him could return. Some might not be polite, and some might try to use the lake for their own gain. John knew he had to be ready. One morning, John decided to explore a small cave near the lake's edge that he had noticed during one of his walks. It was hidden behind thick bushes, almost invisible unless someone was looking carefully. Inside, the cave was cool and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling into a shallow pool, and the air smelled fresh and earthy. John knelt by the pool and dipped his fingers in the water. It was stronger than the lake itself. He carefully touched a small scratch on his arm, and it healed instantly. The energy in the cave seemed more concentrated, more alive. He realized that the lake's power was not uniform. Certain areas, like the hidden pool and the cave, held more energy. He made a mental note to protect these areas carefully. The lake's secret was not just its surface water. It was hidden in places that few could find. That evening, as he returned to the cabin, John found Mia sitting on the porch with a sketchbook. She looked up and smiled. "Dad, I drew the cave," she said proudly. "And the waterfall, too." John looked at her drawings. They were simple, yet full of life. He felt a warm pride in her creativity. "You're very talented," he said. "We should keep exploring together. There is so much to learn about this place." As night fell, John stood by the water's edge. The stars reflected on the lake, and the gentle sound of the water lapping against the shore filled the air. He thought about the challenges they might face. Outsiders, curious travelers, or even people who did not care about nature could come. He shook his head slightly, but a firm determination settled in his chest. Lake Greenwood was their home, and it was special. They would protect it no matter what. He knew that it was not just about land or property. It was about preserving something magical, something that could heal both body and spirit. In the quiet darkness, John made a silent promise. "No one will take this place from us," he whispered. "We will keep it safe." And the lake seemed to respond, the water reflecting the moonlight in a soft, steady glow. The energy beneath the surface pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of something alive. It was a reminder that the lake held secrets yet to be discovered, and that John and Mia were now a part of its story. The next morning, John and Mia woke to a gentle mist over the lake. It wrapped the cabin and the forest in a soft, silvery glow. Birds chirped, and a light breeze carried the scent of pine and wet earth. "Dad," Mia said, "I think the lake likes us." John smiled, ruffling her hair. "I think you're right," he said. "And we like it too. We have to take care of it together." Little did they know that their promise would soon be tested. People would come, drawn by the lake's beauty and power, and John would have to face choices that would determine not just their safety, but the future of Greenwood itself. For now, however, the lake was calm, the forest silent, and the world seemed to hold its breath in quiet anticipation. John and Mia had found their home, and together they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The mornings at Lake Greenwood had begun to feel familiar to John and Mia. The lake sparkled under the sun, the forest whispered with life, and the hidden cave had become their private sanctuary. But John knew their peace was fragile. The footprints, Paul's visit, and other signs told him that outsiders might soon try to return. One crisp morning, John decided to explore the northern edge of the lake, an area he had not yet visited. The path was narrower and more overgrown than the others, but the sound of running water drew him forward. The stream here was shallow, flowing quickly over smooth stones, and it led into a small pond tucked behind a wall of trees. John knelt to study the water. It was crystal clear, brighter than any other part of the lake, and he felt a familiar energy hum through his fingers as he touched it. Something about this pond felt different, as if it had been waiting for him to find it. He scooped some water into a jar and returned to the cabin. Mia greeted him with a bright smile. "Did you find another secret spot?" she asked eagerly. "I did," John said, showing her the jar. "This water is very special. It feels stronger than even the cave water. Mia's eyes sparkled. Can we go there together? John nodded. We will, but we must be careful. I think other people might try to find our lake too. We cannot let them disturb it. The next day, John began creating small signs of protection. He marked the paths with discreet signals only he and Mia could understand. They also started keeping a closer watch on the edges of the forest and the lake, noting any unusual footprints or signs of disturbance. John knew that the lake's magic could not protect itself if someone greedy found it. A few days later, as they sat by the hidden cave, John and Mia heard voices in the distance. Two men were approaching along the lake's main path. John's heart raced. He had prepared for this moment, but seeing strangers near the cabin was always tense. Stay behind me, John whispered to Mia. The men stepped into the clearing, carrying backpacks and cameras. They looked like hikers at first, but John noticed the way they scanned the lake and cabin with curiosity that felt different from simple exploration. Hello there, one of the men called, waving casually. Beautiful lake you have here. We didn't mean to disturb you. John stepped forward, keeping his voice steady but firm. This is private property. You cannot just come here. The man's smile faltered slightly. We were just admiring nature. We didn't know anyone lived here. John studied them carefully. Something about their behavior seemed calculated. He realized they might be scouting the area, trying to see what the lake had to offer. I need you to leave, John said firmly. This lake is not for sale and it is not open to the public. The men exchanged glances but did not argue. All right, one said finally. We will leave. Thank you for your time. John watched them leave, heart still racing. The lake's secret was still safe for now, but he knew it would not stay hidden forever. Over the next few days, John explored the northern pond again. He discovered that its water could heal not only cuts and bruises, but also eased fatigue and discomfort. When he soaked his hands or feet in the water, the tiredness of long days disappeared. Even Mia noticed that the lake seemed to make her feel stronger and more energetic. John realized the lake's power was connected to care and respect. When they treated it gently, it rewarded them with its energy. He thought about what could happen if someone careless or greedy found it. He needed to be ready. One afternoon, Anna, the researcher who had visited before, appeared quietly at the lake's edge. She carried a small notebook and camera, her eyes wide with awe. Hello, she said softly. I wanted to see the pond you discovered. It's amazing. John studied her closely. He had come to trust Anna's intentions. It is special, he said. But it is private. You must respect that. Anna nodded. I promise I will. I just want to observe, not disturb. John decided to show her the pond, carefully explaining the importance of treating it with respect. Anna listened, her admiration for the lake clear in her eyes. Together they observed the water, noting how it shimmered in the sunlight and how the surrounding plants seemed healthier than anywhere else. As they watched, Mia dipped her hand into the pond. A small cut on her finger healed almost immediately. Anna gasped softly. This water, it's remarkable. John nodded, a mix of pride and caution in his expression. It is, but it is not for everyone. Only those who care for it should come close. That night, John sat on the porch looking at the lake. The events of the day weighed on his mind. Outsiders could come again, and some might not be as careful as Anna. He realized that protecting the lake would be a lifelong responsibility. But he also felt a deep sense of purpose. The lake had given them strength, hope, and a connection to something extraordinary. The next morning, John and Mia explored the forest beyond the northern pond. The trees were thick and ancient, their roots twisting over rocks and soil. In a small clearing, they found a spring bubbling up from the ground. The water here was even clearer than the pond, and John felt a gentle warmth as he knelt to touch it. This is incredible, he said quietly. The lake's energy comes from many sources, not just the main water. Mia nodded. It's like the lake has its own heart, she said. John smiled at her insight. Yes, and it's our job to protect it. Over the next week, John continued to observe the lake's hidden waters. He discovered that the pond and cave water could heal more than cuts. They eased aches and strengthened the body. The lake's energy seemed connected to the land, the forest, and the plants. Every part of Greenwood worked together to create something magical. But John also noticed signs of disturbance near the main dock. Some branches were broken and small footprints appeared where they should not have been. Someone had been watching them again. That night, John made a plan. He would set up small, harmless traps to alert him if anyone came near the lake. He also taught Mia how to watch quietly and signal him if she saw anything unusual. They were ready to defend their home together. One evening, John and Mia sat by the cabin fire. Mia looked at him seriously. "Dad, I don't want anyone to hurt the lake," she said. "I know," John replied. "Neither do I, but we will be ready. The lake has given us a gift, and we must protect it." As they spoke, the moon rose over Greenwood, casting silver light across the water. The lake shimmered gently, reflecting the stars. John felt a quiet strength from the lake itself, as if it understood their determination. The following morning, a new group of visitors appeared at the far end of the property. John saw them from his tree platform, 2 men and a woman moving with purpose. Their cameras and equipment suggested they were not simple hikers. John knew it was time to act. He gathered Mia, and together they prepared to protect the lake. They would use their knowledge of the paths, hidden ponds, and the forest to keep Greenwood safe. The lake had given them more than a home. It had given them a purpose, and John was determined that no one would exploit its secrets. As the new visitors approached, John felt the power of the lake beneath him, a steady pulse of energy and life. He whispered to Mia, "Stay close to me. We will protect our home." Mia nodded, her eyes wide but determined. The lake had chosen them, and together, they would ensure that its magic remained safe. The morning air over Lake Greenwood was crisp and still. John stood on the dock, peering across the water. He could see movement near the far end of the forest. Outsiders had returned, and this time they were more determined. 2 men and a woman were carefully making their way through the trees, carrying tools and cameras. John's heart raced, but he felt a quiet strength from the lake itself, as if it were lending him courage. "Stay close to me, Mia," he whispered. She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. The 2 of them moved quietly along a hidden path John had discovered earlier. The forest provided cover, and the gentle rustle of leaves helped mask their presence. They reached a vantage point near the hidden pond. The water shimmered in the morning sun, almost as if it were aware of the approaching danger. John knew that this place held great power, and he could feel its energy pulsing beneath the surface. It was as if the lake itself was ready to protect them. From their hiding spot, John observed the newcomers. They were examining the dock and the shoreline, discussing plans in hushed voices. John realized they must have assumed the lake was abandoned or unprotected. That mistake would soon become clear. "Dad," Mia whispered, "what do we do?" John took a deep breath. "We stay calm and use what we know. This is our home, and the lake is on our side." He had prepared for this moment. Small signals and traps designed not to harm but to alert them had been placed along the forest paths. One by one, the outsiders triggered the alerts. Fallen branches, disturbed leaves, and the gentle sound of rocks shifted by hidden mechanisms. The noises made the visitors pause, look around nervously, and slow their progress. John led Mia closer to the northern pond. The water glimmered brightly, its energy stronger than ever. He scooped some water into his hands and motioned for Mia to do the same. Together, they dipped their fingers into the pond. The water pulsed with warmth and strength, filling them with courage and clarity. As the outsiders drew closer, John and Mia stepped out from the trees. John raised his hand, speaking firmly. "This is private property. You are not welcome here. Leave immediately." The woman stepped forward, looking surprised. "We only wanted to study the lake," she said cautiously. John shook his head. "This lake is not for anyone who does not respect it. You will leave, or I will have to make sure you cannot disturb it." The men exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected an empty lake, not someone prepared and determined to protect it. They hesitated, realizing they had underestimated the place and its guardians. Mia stepped forward slightly, holding the jar of pond water. "This lake is alive," she said quietly but firmly. "It helps those who care for it. You cannot take it or hurt it." The energy from the water seemed to ripple outward. The leaves rustled more strongly. The birds called sharply, and the forest felt alive around them. The outsiders froze, sensing something they could not explain. It was as if the lake itself was warning them. Finally, the woman nodded slowly. "We understand," she said. "We will leave. We did not know the lake was protected in this way." The men followed, and the group retreated through the forest. John and Mia watched them disappear, ensuring they would not return. The forest gradually returned to its calm state, and the lake shimmered peacefully as if satisfied that its guardians had defended it well. John lowered his hand, breathing deeply. He looked at Mia, who smiled with relief and pride. "We did it," she said softly. "Yes," John agreed. "We protected our home." After the tension faded, they returned to the cabin. John poured a small amount of water from the northern pond into a glass and offered it to Mia. She drank, feeling a sense of energy and calm wash over her. John took a sip as well, appreciating the strength and clarity it brought. Over the next few days, they repaired any small disturbances and reinforced their protective measures. John realized that the lake's magic was not just in the water, it was in the harmony between the land, the forest, and those who respected it. He and Mia had learned to listen to the lake, to understand its quiet language, and to protect it with care. One afternoon, Anna returned quietly to the lake, as she had done before. She carried a small notebook and approached John and Mia respectfully. "I wanted to see if you were all right," she said. "I heard about the visitors. I hope you are safe." John nodded. "We are. The lake is safe and we will keep it that way," Anna smiled. "I understand. I only want to observe and learn, not disturb. The lake is extraordinary and it deserves to be protected." John studied her and decided to trust her intentions. "All right," he said. "You may come occasionally, but you must respect the lake and its privacy." Anna agreed. "I will. Thank you for trusting me." Days turned into weeks and life at Lake Greenwood settled into a peaceful rhythm. John and Mia continued exploring, repairing the cabin and observing the lake's secrets. The hidden pond and cave became their safe havens, places where they could feel the energy of the water and the calm of the forest. One morning, John noticed a small animal limping near the edge of the northern pond. He gently guided it into the water and within moments its leg healed. The deer looked at him with calm, trusting eyes before bounding into the forest. Mia clapped softly. "The lake is amazing," she said. John smiled. "Yes, it is, and we are lucky to be part of it." He realized that the lake's power was not just magical, it was a reflection of care and respect. By protecting the land, the forest, and the water, they were part of a cycle that preserved life and strength. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever. That evening, as the sun set over Greenwood, John and Mia sat on the porch, watching the water sparkle in shades of gold and purple. The forest was quiet, the birds had gone to roost, and the gentle sound of water filled the air. "We did it, Dad," Mia said. "We saved the lake." John nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "Yes, Mia, we saved it. And as long as we are here, we will keep it safe." The lake shimmered under the fading sunlight, reflecting the trees, the sky, and the faces of its guardians. It was alive with energy, a quiet but powerful presence that seemed to promise more secrets and wonders for those who cared for it. As night fell, John placed a small jar of pond water on the cabin windowsill, its surface glowing softly in the moonlight. He knew that the lake's magic would continue to guide them, to protect them, and to remind them of the importance of care, respect, and harmony with nature. Maya leaned against him, tired, but happy. "Do you think the lake will always be this way?" she asked. John looked out at the water, the forest, and the stars above. "As long as people care for it, yes," he said. "The lake has chosen us, and we have chosen it. Together we will protect it forever." And in the stillness of the night, Lake Greenwood pulsed quietly, its waters shimmering under the moon, a living, breathing reminder that some places were meant to be cherished, protected, and loved. John and Mia knew that they were not just the lake's guardians, they were part of its story, and the lake was part of theirs. The future held many possibilities, but one thing was certain. Lake Greenwood would remain safe, its waters healing, its forest alive, and its magic preserved. Together, John and Mia had discovered that the true power of the lake was not just in its water, it was in the love, respect, and care of those who understood its value. With the stars shining above and the gentle sound of water surrounding them, John and Mia finally felt a deep peace. Lake Greenwood was home, safe and magical, a treasure they had fought to protect and a gift that would continue to bring hope, healing, and wonder for many years to come.